Good evening. I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Round Lake Area Board of Education on February 23rd, 2026 at 7 p.m. If I can get started first with a roll call, please.
Miss Lee,
Here.
Mr. De Vera,
Here.
Mr. Francisco,
Here.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Here.
And first up, a Pledge of Allegiance.
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the meeting agenda as listed?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mr. De Vera. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes,
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
we have an approved agenda, and first up on that is special recognition, and that was our January 2026 Female Athlete of the Month, and Mr. Peterson.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to bring up our head coach, Ender Conchio, and he's going to introduce the athlete of the month.
Good evening, everyone. Mariah is ending this season of her freshman year with a 31-15 record. 29 of her wins were pins this year. She's also brought home third place medals at 3 different tournaments, starting with her first varsity podium at Maine East, followed by performances at Palatine and Conant, where she only lost the returning state champ. Mariah has been involved with our program since open gyms last spring, and already as a freshman has served an integral role in keeping herself and her teammates accountable and communicative. Mariah is constantly hungry to improve, aggressively addressing any technical challenges in the practices directly following competitions, and always holds herself to a high standard in our sport, showing maturity well beyond her years, represented through her sectional qualification and making the finals of the regionals as a freshman. I present the Female Athlete of the Month for December and January, Mariah Jefferson.
Next up, I'd like to welcome Miss Crayley from the Round Lake Area Exchange Club to honor our Youth of the Month.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight to present our Youth of the Month Award. Board members, staff members, and audience members. My name is Connie Crayley, and I'm representing the Round Lake Area Exchange Club. As you may know, or may not know, the Exchange Club is America's oldest service organization, with youth programming being one of our 4 pillars. The Youth of the Month Award is the cornerstone of the Round Lake Area Exchange Club's youth programming. The Youth of the Month Award honors outstanding students who have exhibited excellence in academics, leadership, and service. Students submit an essay on a theme selected by the National Exchange Club, and you'll be hearing our honoree read her essay in just a few minutes. This year's theme is especially meaningful, asking our youth, In a world that is constantly changing and ever evolving, our youth play critical roles in shaping the future of their communities. From advocating to leadership and to leading, young people are taking charge and making a significant impact. How have you personally contributed to society, and how do you envision your future in community service? Thank you. Since the beginning of her freshman year until now, she has always stood out for her clear sense of purpose and determination. She maintains an impressive 3.75 weighted GPA while actively preparing for a career in nursing. She has already gained significant professional experience, completing a year-long medical assisting dual credit program through the College of Lake County and earning her CNA certificate through the Nursing Inspire internship at Rosalind Franklin University. At Round Lake High School, she is a dedicated leader as a member of the National Honor Society and a college ambassador. She mentors underclassmen and helps them navigate high school life. She also serves as a caregiver in the Panther Sports Medicine Club, where she assists student athletes with medical kits and injury care. Beyond her clinical work in nursing homes, she is committed to making a difference through her community service, which includes volunteering at Feed My Starving Children. These experiences have fueled her desire to enter the medical field with a focus on empathy and responsibility. She embodies the qualities of perseverance, leadership, and compassion. We are incredibly proud of her accomplishments and look forward to her future as a medical professional. Please join me in congratulating Celeste Ruiz as the February Youth of the Month.
Good evening, my name is Celeste Ruiz and I am honored to be here tonight. In first grade, I was the student who was too timid and scared to interact with my fellow classmates or even with the grown-ups. Today, as a senior, I stand before you wanting nothing more than to help others in their moments of need. My involvement through community service has really taught me that being a role model isn't always about making a huge outstanding impact. In some cases, it simply just means showing up. Throughout my volunteering at Feeding My Starving Children, while also serving in the Panther Sports Medicine program, I have realized that global hunger and local athlete recovery share a common thread, a duty to protect those who are vulnerable. Whether I was working on promoting injury prevention for our athletes or packing meals for the children all over the world, I had a glance of how much of an impact we can have when we prioritize the well-being of others in society and in our community. This experience led me to want to pursue a career in nursing. Through the Inspire program at Rosalind Franklin University, I've been able to see the healthcare world firsthand. During my CNA training, I witnessed a moment that changed me. While caring for a resident, that same resident had asked the nurse for something simple as having her teeth brushed, only to be told, "I'm too busy." That resident's response stayed with me. "How come you have time to brush your teeth, but no decency to brush mine?" That moment left me feeling disappointed, but it also built my reason to be a nurse. I realized that while healthcare professionals are often overworked, we can never afford to lose our empathy towards our patients. I want to be the nurse who doesn't only provide medical treatment, but preserves the dignity and the care every patient deserves. As I look towards the future, I envision my career in nursing built upon advocacy and leadership. I hope to help build a community where we can treat one another as we wish to be treated, ensuring that the upcoming leaders from tomorrow are supported by the caregivers of today. Thank you for this honor and for giving me the opportunity to serve in our community.
Student of the Month Award, the certificate is proudly awarded to Celeste Ruiz as an outstanding student in Lake County, a student that exemplifies the Exchange Club's core values of family, community, and country. Unity for Service, the National Exchange Club. Daniel Birch, President, and Judy Armstrong, Vice President.
All right, we will continue with communications to the board, and first up on that is the BPAC update, and that would be Mr. Grafaldo. I think this one is Mr. Grafaldo. BPAC update? Yeah.
Uh, Good evening. My name is Jesus Grifaldo. I'm a member of BPAC. I'm not the president. I'm a member of BPAC, just to make sure of that. Well, I'm coming with the February update on what we've been working on. This month we had an academy seminar with psychologist Fernay Ramirez on parenting styles. Even though I already have two teenagers, I'm still learning. And what we learn is the importance of positive parenting and clear expectations from all adults at home. Try to kind of trick our students how to become successful. We really appreciate the support of the district because that Friday I saw text messages they went out and we really got a really nice turnout. So I'm really excited that now parents are seeing that text message on Friday and they're deciding to go to the seminars. The other thing that I really appreciate is providing childcare during the seminar because it helps a lot with parents. So we really appreciate that, and we as parents, we're still learning about that too. Second, we are preparing for our next academy seminar on the summer learning. We now understand the importance of our students continue learning during summer months and be preparing for the next school year. We're working on partnership with Rosalind Franklin that we're really excited to work out with Rosalind Franklin, and we encourage high school students to apply for the summer programs. I mean, I was one of the first parents that actually visited the university, and I was really proud for my son because I mean he never really thought that he was gonna be selected. So that was really an excitement for him. So I'm encourage parents to push your kids to apply, and I mean it's just now it's just if you're lucky enough because now we're having so many kids applying. Our monthly book club will be reading about a book on I'm Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter. This book talks about culture, tradition, and mental health. I already read this book and it opened my image of the new students because I mean in our time that is basically the same thing, but I mean we didn't have these issues or we worked out these issues, but now with technology kids are struggling more, and this will help out the new parents open their connection with their kids. And once again, thank you to the district for all the support to BPAC, and thank you to the communication department for sending those text message because those text message at least helps a lot to encourage parents to go to the seminars. Uh, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we'll turn it over to Ms. Sol and our fiscal year 2024-25 audit results.
Good evening. You have in your board packet the FY25 audit report as well as hard copies at your tables. We have Sheridan Jurgensen here, who's from Excezion. She is not only a CPA, but she's an audit partner for Excezion, and she's going to go through our FY25 audit results with you. One change that we did make to the audit report this year from years in the past is that we actually embedded pictures from throughout FY25 of our students within the report. Anywhere where there was a page that was identified as intentionally left blank, instead of leaving it blank, we embedded pictures this year just to kind of remind anyone looking at the report, of the focus really should be on the students. And these numbers are really a reflection of them as well as the district's operating results. So we have Sheridan Jurgensen here, who's going to speak to you on our FY25 audit.
Well, good evening. My name is Sheridan Jurgensen, and I will just spend a few minutes. I'll go through the results of the audit report, and then answer any questions that you might have. Before I do that, though, I do want to say thank you to T and Tina and the rest of the business office, and just the amount of work that goes into getting everything ready for us for the audit. I just really appreciate, especially this year is a little more challenging with the conversion of the software. And so everything that we asked for took a little bit more time. And so we just really appreciate all of their work that went into the audit. The audit went very well. The records were in very good shape. We had very few entries that we made as part of the audit, which is always good news. And so I'll go through the audit, but again, if you have any questions as I'm going through, please let me know. The first thing in the audit report is our opinion. It's an unmodified opinion, and that's basically the best one you can have under accounting standards. And really what that says is that based on all the testing we did, all the things that we looked at, that we felt the financial statements were free from material misstatement. It also has a section in there about internal controls, and while we don't give an opinion on your internal controls, we do spend a lot of time looking at them. So if there's going to be errors or fraud or anything that would occur, it's going to be those controls that's going to catch that. And so it's obviously very important that we're looking at those. And we're not only looking at what's written for policies and procedures, but also making sure that people are following them. So we sit down with the people that are processing the receipts coming in, expenses going out, payroll, grant, compliance, etc. Just making sure that those policies and procedures are being followed, as well as making sure that there's proper approval and review on everything that comes in and out of the district. So no issues when we were doing that, and no deficiencies that needed to be reported as a result of that. The second thing in the audit report is your management discussion and analysis. And I would just recommend, if you read nothing else in the audit report, I know it's a big report, that you just read that section. It gives just a nice overview of what happened during the year, just variances from the prior year, as well as some information on the future of the district, etc. After that, there's two sets of financial statements. Starting on page 14 is the government-wide financial statement. And I'm not going to really spend any time on that one, but that's a more long-term outlook statement. So you'll see your fixed assets, long-term debt, net pension obligations, OPEB obligations, etc. on that statement. And then starting on page 16 is your fund financial statements, and that's typically what you're more used to seeing internally. It just shows the results of each of the funds. On page 18 and 19, you'll see for this year ended, there was a loss of $9.1 million. There was a $13.4 million loss in the general fund. And then the largest other decrease was debt service of $4.4 million. After that is the footnotes. There's really no change in the footnotes this year. It gives you just a lot more detail on the numbers on the financial statements. It gives you information about the pension plans, fixed assets, long-term debt, etc. So all of that's in there. And then there's also some historical information in the back. So it gives you 10 years of details of the financials, as well as other statistics, etc. in the back. The other thing that we do is provide a single audit, which is a separate audit we provide that's testing your federal grants. So we're looking at not only the amounts that you're receiving and the expenses related to that, but also there's a lot of compliance and reporting that goes with those, so just making sure that those are all being followed. This year we tested the single audit grants and Title I, and there was no issues or deficiencies with those. And then the final thing that we provide is the AFR that goes to the state. In there, they calculate the financial profile score. This year, you are at a 3.1, which is under review. Last year, you had about a 3.45, which was also under the category of review. So that's just kind of a quick overview of the financial statements, but I can definitely answer any questions that you might have.
No questions. First, again, I just wanted to say thank you, and as you mentioned, to Ms. Amesole and Tina, everyone in the finance or business office in regards to getting you all the documentation that's requested. You heard the changes, Ms. Amesole, regarding pictures into the document for those empty pages, and as you heard, we received an unmodified opinion, which is what most districts are looking for or hope to receive.
Yes, that is the best opinion you can receive.
Right.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't sound great when you say an unmodified opinion, but that is what we want to hear or see in this audit. But as stated, it was a good review. It was a clean review. And it's everything that we had hoped for. And I was really going to put this in more the finance update, but I did want to just knowing the lens that we're under. We also have that separate financial assurance review audit that's happening. That will come later. So this is just our audit.
Any additional questions from the board in regards to the presentation? Very thorough. Thank you. And that will transition us to the quarterly presentation of the treasurer's report. Same so.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to discuss with you our December 31st, 2025 Treasurer's Report, which is the end of our second quarter mid-year review of our Treasurer's Report. Let's see here. Okay, so what we've done is we have actually highlighted or prepared slides for you of our operating expenditures. As we're going through our operating expenditures, I did want to make a couple notes to you as the board. If we were to actually go through the all funds expenditures, because we have different things happening between the operating funds, the debt service funds, and the capital funds, it's generally easier to take the pieces of information and look at them separately, because when you lump it all together, it can skew the results, make the numbers bigger, and also make the percentages vary. This way, by separating out operating, capital, and debt, we are given an opportunity to look at each one individually and what's happening in those various nuances. So as we're looking at our operating expenditures, our operating expenditures, number one, our salaries and benefits are coming in either at or below last year's percentages. So if we were just to look at that first line item, administrator salaries, you can see that as of last year, we had spent 49% of what we were going to totally spend. This is not comparing. It's important to note this is not comparing last year's year-to-date to last year's budget. We're comparing last year's year-to-date to last year's activity. That's different because a budget is obviously different than your actual activity. So what we would hope to see is that if we had 49% as of this time last year, we should have 49% as of this time this year, and we do. And in fact, as we're looking at most of our percentages, we are well within that 5% variance. We only have a few that are either above or below that 5% variance threshold. The first of those would be our stipends and our other salaries. When as of last year, we had spent 26%. This year, we've spent 20%. So we're actually trending below average, which is good for us. That is indicative of ending the year at or below our budget target. In researching the variance and what's causing the variance, this seems to be twofold. Number one, we are using subs less this year than we did in prior years, so that is causing a variance. But also we have restructured how we were doing internal subbing, which has also saved the district some money, which is why we're having a variance there. So that is the first item that we have on our footnotes list. The next item would be our other employee benefits. As of this time last year, we had spent 21%. We're at 5% this year. So again, we're trending below average, which is a great place to be. In looking at the overall budget isn't significant. It's only $143,000 of our $140 million budget. But when we looked at those right now, we may end the year under budget, but some of these are actually payments that are made to like TRS after they send us invoices. So those invoices still can come throughout the rest of the fiscal year. We'll be monitoring this line item, but as it stands right now, it looks like we may end the year under budget. As we look at the next item and again, I'm just highlighting those items that are within a 5% variance, either above or below prior year spending. Our supplies and our materials, as of this time last year, we had spent 56%. We're at 42% this year. So again, our budget officers are doing a phenomenal job of really weighing those needs versus wants and making those tough choices and staying within their budget. So we very well may end the year under budget. We do have our purchasing that will remain through this fiscal year, but we have given our budget officers a deadline of April 15th to have all their paperwork in for the final spending of the year. So we actually may see this bump up a little bit over the coming months as they're finalizing their spending. But again, that would have also happened this time of last year. So the percents are, again, giving us indication that we may end the year under budget. The same goes for capital outlay and equipment. We're at 23% versus 40% of prior year. One thing also that's important to note is we would anticipate to see this actual reduction in capital outlay because this year our capital outlay threshold changed. What does that mean? Anything that is normally a supply, if it's over a $10,000 threshold, then it's not a supply anymore. It's categorized as capital outlay. Last year, that threshold was $1,000. So we would have seen more money spent out of supplies versus capital. This year, because of that $10,000 threshold, we're seeing more less spending in the capital outlay, which is also indicative that that supply and material budget is really and truly strong in terms of coming in under budget, because we should actually see that increase with the decrease of our capital outlay and equipment. Finally, we have our other objects. That's coming in higher than anticipated. This is the only line item that's coming in higher than anticipated at 57% versus 24% of prior year. But when we looked at the actual account numbers, this does not seem that we're going to end the year over budget. This is more of a timing difference and a difference in how items were spent. Because if you look at FY25, we spent a total of $2 million in this line item in FY25. This year, the line item is only a $530,000 budget. So you are going to probably see difference in timing of spending of those expenditures. Next, we'll take a look. I think I accidentally skipped our operating revenue. I did. I skipped our operating revenue. Let's take a little moment to talk about that. In terms of the first footnote, which is our corporate property taxes, as of this time this year, it says we're at 0% versus 51% of prior year. It's important to note that corporate property taxes can be allocated between any fund. It's one of the few funding sources that we can allocate between any fund. However, we are required by law to put a certain percent of our levy amount, what we levy for IMRF, into the IMRF fund. And last year that percent worked out to be $184,000, but because of the changes that we made to how we're levying our money this year, and we reduced the levy in the IMRF fund significantly, it went from about $2 million down to $5,000. That calculation is now only $500. So we will only be putting $500 into the operating revenues versus last year, which was $184,000. As I noted in our finance meeting, our earnings on investment is coming in at 50%, whereas As of this time last year, we were at 60%. We already, if you look at the budget amounts, we had taken in $2 million, almost $2.1 million last year, but we reduced the budget in anticipation of two things. One, the use of fund balance because of the deficit from FY25. That reduces your cash reserves, and therefore you're going to have less on interest income. But we also have declining rates in the market. But as it stands right now, we do our best to estimate what that budget should be. We're trending below, which could very well mean that we will end the year with a revenue, with less revenue than we had anticipated. We'll keep monitoring this. There really is nothing that we can do to pivot to try to change the results. As it stands right now, we have Tina, who's on our team, who spends a great deal of time maximizing how much we're getting on our interest income, which is seen by a $1.7 million revenue line item. But that is just one area in the revenue where we think we may end the year under the revenue budget, which isn't necessarily a great thing. As we're looking at footnote number 3, that's our other local revenue. When we look at last year, we were at 42%. This year, we're at 76%. As it stands right now, we don't think that we're going to end the year over budget. Most of this is donations that come into the district, which can be hard to predict from year to year. But as it stands right now, we're going to continue to monitor this line item. We don't believe it's going to come in with a significant budget surplus, for lack of a better term. Lastly, we have our title grants. Our title grants are coming in at 35% versus 22% last year. But I would like to make the note, if you take a look at the revenue itself, we've taken in $1.2 million versus $800,000 as of this time last year. All of our grants are submitted on a reimbursement basis. So the timing of when we spend them, as well as when we submit those expenditures, affects when we receive the money. It's important to note that any budget variance in the revenue line items would also mean a budget variance in the expenditure line items, because you don't receive it unless you spend it. So if we were trending to receive more money, then we would be spending more money down in the expenditure. It has a zero impact on the fund balance as a whole. So now I'm going to skip operating expenditures since I already went through those. If we take a look at our debt service revenues are trending on target. If we look at the first line, the levy line, this is one, if I were a board member, I'd be like, okay, help me understand. Why are we at 50% this year versus 46% last year, or 26% last year? And that is because most of our debt payments, or half of our debt payments, were subsidized with the property tax relief grant last year. So that meant that we levied less last year. So with the change of the levy this year, we would expect to see a different receipt pattern than we had in the past. So again, even though that this seems like a very large variance, it does not translate into a variance in terms of what we anticipate for the budget. As it relates to our earnings on investments in the debt service fund, we're trending higher than last year. Some of this is probably due to the fact that we gave fund balance to the debt service fund to cover those lease payments and other capital projects. So it's going to earn the interest on those payments. But the important thing to note is that we did find a use for these earnings on investments. We were able to use these earnings on investments to cover our copier lease that we otherwise would not have had a funding source for. And the important thing is anything spent out of the debt service fund that otherwise would have come out of education, the education fund means money back to educating students, which is our primary goal. As we take a look at the debt service expenditures, we are trending a little bit slightly different in terms of prior year to this year in our principal and interest category, but we do not anticipate that we will have a budget variance at this point. It's just a timing difference between the payments. If we take a look at our capital projects and life safety accounts, we are trending, again, we have that variance in the tax levy. So as of this time last year, we had received 55%. We've received 96% of what we anticipate to receive for the year. This is primarily due to that change in how we're levying things in the current levy cycle. When we take a look at our corporate property taxes, we can see that we have budgeted most of our corporate property taxes into the capital projects funds because this is pretty much the only funding source that we're using to fund additional capital projects that we have. So we are trending, it looks different, but it is not indicative of either a budget variance overage or a budget variance. It's just that last year we had done the transfers of the corporate property taxes in a different time frame than we received the revenue, which is why it looks like we had received zero as of this moment in time. Last year, that's because it was all going into the operating funds, and we later transferred it over to the capital projects fund. When we look at our earnings on investments, we are trending below average in the capital projects. And again, much like the operating funds, we are anticipating that we may end the year under budget when it comes to this revenue line item. When we look at our other local and flow through, I said this in the September meeting, but I'll say it again. This is a line item and it shows a variance, but that is because last year we had received a very large donation from a corporation, and this year we are not receiving that donation, which is causing the variance from year to year. But when we look at our state EBF and categorical grants, last year we had received $1.7 million of grant money that was allocated for our capital projects. This year, those grants were significantly reduced, and we only are anticipating $50,000, which we have already expended and received the reimbursement for. When we look at the expenditures themselves, we are trending again slightly below in purchase services. We're at 3% versus 53%. This may end the year with a variance, but right now we still have so many projects that are outstanding and that need to be buttoned up before June 30th. We're just going to continue to monitor not only that line item, but also the capital outlay and equipment budget as a whole. We will be monitoring for the remainder of the year. As of this time last year, we had spent 37%. As of this time, we've spent 60%. But again, if you look at last year, we had $14 million versus the $6 million that was expended for FY26. The last thing that I put in our slides is just an overview again of a quick overview of the levy and the significant changes that we made in the levy in order to basically funnel the resources that we had available and utilize fund balances in funds where our fund balances were significantly high. What we have done is we've actually reduced the levy in several areas, such as transportation, IMRF, our retirement fund, fire prevention safety, our tort fund. All of those we have reduced and instead increased the amount of levy going into the ed fund. And that gives us the opportunity to not only put those resources into operating funds where they can be used to educate children, but also given the FY25 results that were deficit, as we have discussed previously, we ended the year with a negative fund balance in the ed fund. Now the ed fund also has a sub fund, which is the food service fund. The food service fund, because that was so significant, made it so that when you're looking at the actual audit reports, it looks like our ed fund is still positive. But when you look at the actual detail, the ed fund is negative. This will help us, this change in the levy will help us basically try to reimburse the education fund and get that fund balance back positive. So we just put that reminder of the levy in the document just for you to be able to have that for information. Other than that, that is our overview of the mid-year results for FY26. Do I have any questions?
No questions. I did want to just make sure, because we used a few acronyms in there, like TRS, which is our teacher retirement system. I know it was mentioned about those monies or invoices that are received. That's for our teacher retirement system. And then IMRF is Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. Those are for like our non-certified staff. The administrators are part of that retirement system. I just wanted to make sure so that the community knows when we're mentioning certain acronyms what we're talking to. And then additionally, give me 1 second. As Ms. Ames-Sold mentioned under capital projects, life safety expenditures, that capital outlay mentioned about the grants or monies received, that was related to our early education center project, that addition. the generous donation we received from the Schreiber Foundation. That's just a reminder on what that was.
Any additional questions from the board? All right, hearing none, thank you very much. And next up, we'll go to the 2026 summer school opportunities.
Good evening. I'm here this evening to review our upcoming summer school programming for this summer. The presentation is really going to be broken into three particular categories, starting off with a review of the programming we'll be offering. Then we'll be looking at a review of some of the programs and positions that were removed based on outcomes, availability of resources, and funding. And then finally, we'll wrap up with a review of the timeline of details that lead us up to summer. There will be an opportunity as well at the end, of course, ask any questions you may have. So kicking things off, we're going to start with the programs that will be offered within the community. We'll continue to offer at the preschool level the summer learning bags that are sent home with every preschool student so they can continue learning with their families over the summer. We will also continue to offer a bus in the park. We're going to be combining our art and STEM buses into one bus, the STEAM bus, and those buses will be available on Tuesdays. We'll host at the same park we have historically, the Lakefront Park in Round Lake Beach. And then finally, for kindergarten through 8th grade, because we have the excellent resource of iReady, we will allow for students to continue to have access to their individualized learning platform through July 10th. So that will be something principals will be recognizing on a weekly basis of just reviewing who are the students that are continuing learning and sending home some recognition postcards and communications to families that we just are excited to see that they're continuing learning through the summer. So then moving from there, we'll look at our elementary-based programs. All of our elementary-based programs will be hosted at the either EEC or Murphy Elementary this summer. And every program will run June 1st through June 25th with a 4-hour-a-day program for the students. The kindergarten program, we will continue our partnership that we've had for several years now with the United Way to host the Kindergarten Countdown Camp, looking specifically to target students that do not have a lot of preschool experience. One thing I will note about that program is I know we've discussed here, as well as within our team, a concern about kind of a decrease in participation over the last couple of years. So one thing I discussed with the leadership at United Way for this summer is if we could potentially consider having students that have had a little bit of preschool experience, because now that we've expanded our preschool, we have less kids in the community that have that don't have preschool. So they were open to considering students that had 6 months or less of preschool experience. So they may have qualified at some point during this school year, but haven't gone through a full year of preschool. So I'm hoping that that will boost our enrollment a little bit and just being able to partner with our EEC and bring in some of their current students that are just now beginning to enroll in programs. Then we will also offer at Murphy and at the EEC the extended school year program. Also, we use the acronym for that of ESY. That is the programming that is provided through our special education department that specifically is for students that qualify through their IEP process. And then we'll continue with a multilingual learner program. We have changed the name here. You see the title being Emerging Bilinguals. That historically has been titled Newcomer Programming. But over the past couple of years, we have seen a significant decrease in students that would be considered newcomers, which means new to the country within the last year. But we still have funding that allows us to support language learners, so we want to make sure that we're doing that. So we will be looking at English language specifically proficiency scores, and our students that need the most support will qualify for this program. So the ESY program for special education, we're excited this year our preschool kiddos can stay at the early ed center. It's just much easier for them to maintain in the same setting they've been in during the school year. It also helps support the facility team in not having to move all of their resources and needs to another building in the summer. So preschool ESY will be at the preschool, but every other program for 1st through 5th grade and for kindergarten will be at Murphy. Then moving into our secondary building-based programs, at the middle school level, all programs will be hosted at McGee Middle School this summer, and they will also run from June 1st through June 25th, 4 hours a day for students. You may notice that the start time here shifted by a half an hour. In partnering with Lewis and Transportation, it really helps their team with identifying drivers if we can stagger starts. So that's something we're going to be doing this summer with starting middle school at 8:30 and elementary starts at 8. Again, emerging bilingual programming and extended school year programming are the two programs that will be offered at middle school. So then we move into the high school programming, and you'll see their start time again is another 30 minutes later. Yeah, 30 minutes later, starting at 9 and ending at 1. Also the exact same when we're looking at credit recovery. That is a June 1st through June 25th. Behind the wheel, I just realized the way that's worded looks like it's only happening in June, but that is not the case. This year, we're actually dedicating a decent, more than we did last year, of funding. We're trying really hard to hit that wait list. We've brought to you, I know that Sarah Fontana, one of our directors of teaching and learning, came in and discussed the changes that we made over the last year to try to improve access for students to behind the wheel. So we're continuing that again this summer and dedicating funding to making sure our kids have access to getting themselves a license. So that programming will for sure continue. And then the last program listed on this slide, I wanted to just spend a minute here talking about this one, the Future Ready Skills Academy. We did run for the first time last school year, and that was a program that was started under the leadership of Jessica Crone, one of our directors of teaching and learning, and her curriculum and instruction specialist, Carolyn Corcoran, that works also in the career and tech ed program. And they started a partnership with youth, Empower Youth through Goodwill. And they actually created a work-ready skills curriculum that we piloted last school year. It was one of the classrooms that we actually visited with Dr. Sanders. And we were really excited about the success of that program and the skills that were taught. So we used that curriculum in the Future Ready Skills program last summer and just felt like we needed to continue that. And that is a program that we're going to keep our eyes on to see if we should expand it. Last year we ran 3 sections. We're going to do the same this year. But it's accessible to any kid. It doesn't matter what their GPA is. It doesn't matter what courses they took. And it helps them focus on college and career readiness. So think about resume writing, mock interviews, and those types of opportunities that just, again, would help any kid. So that's a program we're going to really be kind of keeping our eyes on a lot this summer. It is important to note that that is just a 2-week-long program that's 2 hours a day for kids, so it's not as long as our other summer school programs. But again, we think it brings a great opportunity to students, and we're excited to see where that program can go. So then continuing again with some additional programming at the high school level, they will also, just as we saw at the other levels, be hosting an emerging bilingual program and an extended school year program, and then wrapping up with our transition programming where they will also offer extended school year for students at transition. So that completes a review of all the programming. So now I want to dive into funding sources. And we have 3 funding sources that support all of our summer school programming. The program or the funding grant source you see on the left, all of them are grants, I should also note, is the after school grant. The after school grant does exactly really what the title tells you. The funds can only be used for things that you do outside of the normal school day. So after school, during the school year, and then into the summer. So this year we divided that grant almost in half. When you look at during the school year, we know it was definitely, we heard loud and clear from the community that there was a desire to continue Twilight tutoring. So that is the funding source that supports our Twilight tutoring program. You may have seen, if you did not, just this week we opened up and expanded that program. We had to keep a very tight eye on the funding to make sure that we didn't obviously overexpend the funds that we allocated within the grant. So to start the school year, it was only available to students that were struggling at elementary with either a 0 or 1 grade, and at secondary with a D or an F. But looking and monitoring every single month how much we were spending per level, we were able to determine that we would be able to open it more to students to try to encourage a strong push through the end of the year for any kid that may be struggling, or even the student that may have the A and wants to keep the A. So we were excited. We opened at K-8. We did not expand it at the high school because the high school has done some outstanding outstanding work of increasing tutoring opportunities in the school day. They've developed a peer tutoring program and have an open tutoring center throughout the day. There is access to funding for Twilight tutoring at the high school. We just didn't expand the dollars for it. We wanted to focus on the school day piece. So after school grant, about half of those dollars, as you see, go to the Twilight tutoring, and then the remaining funds go to this other summer school programming. Title III dollars are specifically for multilingual students, so that will cover all the costs of the emerging bilingual programming, and the IDEA grant specifically covers special education programming, so that will cover all the costs of the extended school year program. So then diving into just looking at programming and funding optimization. For this particular piece, we took a look at the outcomes, available resources, and just the funding that was available to make sure we were optimizing the programming that we could offer for students. So on the left-hand side of the slide, you see the discontinued programs and positions, and they're really kind of broken into three particular categories. The theater and STEM tables were eliminated due to limited resources and funding to support those programs. Just as a refresher, the STEAM tables were tables that we offered at the local farmers market where we had activities for kids to do. So that was a program that we removed, and the theater program. There are two positions there. The elementary site supervisor and elementary secretary were positions we used to hire for historically, but we've been able to work with building administration and myself as a district administrator to make sure that elementary at Murphy and at EEC is supported through administration and saves us some cost here to be able to offer additional programming. So that's why those two positions were eliminated. And then the final three programs, the middle school integrated remediation program, the high school honors bridge program, and the virtual iReady program. I have a couple of slides after this one that go through the particular data pieces that we looked at in determining whether these programs were providing the right outcomes. We looked at attendance, we looked at grades, and we just looked at predictability of funding on those. So we'll dive more into those three specifically on the next couple of slides. Then on the right-hand side of the slide, you see some of the just changes or modifications in programming. For iReady, we are going to make sure that we're encouraging and communicating to families the desire to continue learning through their platform, and we will recognize kids for doing so. The buses will still be offered in the community, but they will be combined, the art and STEM bus coming together. And then transition is just going to have a slight shift in their curriculum. They historically had a focus on horticulture, you may recall, but that is going to be moving towards more transition domains of education, training, employment, and independent living skills. So of course, I note on the bottom, every year after summer school, we do an after action review to just look at what's working, what didn't work. You know, I brought up driver's ed, like we're always thinking, oh gosh, we should have put more money in that, and trying to balance that. So we will continue to do that again for sure this summer to determine if we are offering the appropriate programming or if we need to make any changes. So moving into the specifics on a couple of the programs that were removed, the Honors Bridge program is something that has been offered at the high school for a very long time, as long as at least 10 years, probably more than that. And we really wanted to look at over time, is this program, the design of it was to support a kid going into honors, hoping that you would see them see some level of success. So we looked at a level of mastery, which we defined as getting an A or a B in the class. And the way the chart breaks out is across the top, you see it notes in English, a 3-year average of students that earned an A or B. And then in math, on the right-hand side, a 3-year average of an A or B. And the first row notes every student that was in that class. Important to call out that the 3-year average was last year end of year grade, the year before end of year grade, and this year at semester. And I averaged those. So if you looked at the students that participated over the last 3 years in the class as a whole, in English, 56% of those students were earned an A or a B. And in math, it would be Algebra 1 honors this year and Math 1 honors the last 2 years. they earned 63% of them got an A or a B. However, the students that were involved in the summer programming after the last 3 years did not have as high of a rate of mastery, with only 48% in English and 37% in math, which just tells us that we need to be looking at the programming. Because again, if the goal is to kind of give that bridge and get them ready for honors level, we're not seeing producing grades for students that really are getting them to the level of mastery we'd like to see. So again, we had to look at all the programs and review what made the most sense when we're looking at how to determine what to move forward. So this one at the moment, we said we need to pause. It's not producing the outcomes we'd like to see. It certainly means we could bring something back, but for right now, the honors program was something we put on pause. The next program that we reviewed and will not be offering this summer is the middle school integrated program. This program was eliminated. Really, it's very, very difficult to predict how to staff, how to fund, because the current model, which has also existed for at least 10 years, requires any student that failed 2 or more classes to attend summer school. And the challenge in that at the middle school, I did meet with Brittany Howard and John Randolph, the middle school principals, to get a sense of their experience over the last couple of years, and also my experience at McGee and Dr. King's as well. We talked about that there's always a challenge every summer of there are kids that don't come. So the piece of you can't force at high school, they have to earn credit, so they come for credit recovery. But at middle school, I have very clear memories of going to doors in the summer, knocking on doors to say, hey, we needed you to come to summer school. But at the end of the day, you can't necessarily predict the attendance. And you also cannot predict the number of students that are going to fail. So trying to determine how we will staff that can be extremely challenging, and also resources. We would find that one year we needed one section of 8th grade. Those numbers weren't finalized until May, and then we needed 3 sections of 6th grade. So buying the resources was very, very tricky. So we navigated it, but it was a lot of scrambling and switching things around and constant communication with the middle schools. And moving forward, if we are to offer a middle school program, I'd like to look at programs I've seen in other communities where it is more a specific program. There's a specific number of seats available, and that we would be able to plan from that lens. But this has just proven to be challenging, and when we had to look and review resources and programming, this is one we felt that we should put on pause and reevaluate potentially for the future. And finally, the last one was last year was our first year of offering a virtual iReady program, as iReady was just brought on last year. And we offered this program to K through 8 students who qualified for Tier 3 intervention. Tier 3 intervention is our students that have the greatest need. It's the highest level of intervention. And we were looking at reading and English language arts and math, or both. Based on how we staffed this, we had 174 spots opened. And our assistant principals, K8, were like on the blitz, so making phone calls to families, inviting all these students, and they were able to get 96 students to sign up out of the 174 spots we had available. But in reviewing the attendance and participation in the program over the course of the 7-week program, because again, they did have virtual sessions that they were to attend, we only saw that 53 out of the 96 students participated with just half or more of the sessions. So again, thinking about the dollars and resources that went into the program, it just felt like we needed to reset, look at doing something different, because we just saw some real trickle down of like participation and attendance. So those are the 3 programs that we removed for this summer, in looking at just kind of some of the data and the outcomes and just predictability of resources. So then moving into the third part of the presentation, again, as I noted, is just going over some of the details that we as an administrative team get moving and our timeline to get us ready for summer programming. So this starts off with the communication piece. I partner closely with Ms. LeBlanc and Ms. Durham to make sure that we get a program catalog out to the community. There's a wide variety of different mediums that they use to share this information with the community, and that will continue. Then the staffing process, we're super excited with Dr. Shute, to be able to dive into Red Rover for staffing. We're using summer school as our real kickoff for staffing with Red Rover. So our team's getting some training next week on that, and all staff will see postings by March 13th. We have communicated with staff what those positions will look like to just let them know what will be posted for them to consider. April is really focused on, like I said, getting that communication out to families, getting all the staffing rolling with interviewing processes, and then finalizing hiring by May 1st. May 22nd, we make sure everyone is added to Raptor just to make sure that they get the right notifications based on the buildings they'll be working in. And we get our purchase orders in April and May. With Ms. Amsel, I know because these are grant funded, that is why some purchasing happens in May. So that piece will make sure all items are delivered to the appropriate buildings. And then registration and transportation are the final items. Registration has gone great in the last couple of years. We've taken the, as a parent, I guess I would say burden. Registration can be rather cumbersome, I think we know as parents. So they no longer have to go in and register. We take care of that for them. There are phone calls to the families. All of the emerging bilingual programming, they're registered through that department and their administration and secretaries. Same with special education and ESY programming is all done through the special ed department. And then all of the high school programs are supported by counselors here at the high school as well as secretaries to make sure students are registered for that programming. We do vary the deadlines to support transportation in the effort to get all K-8 registration done earlier. We do that so we can get transportation live and communicated to families by mid-May. And then high school has to be dependent on graduation and completion of courses based on credit recovery. So the high school then transportation is communicated a little bit later towards the end of May on the 27th. And we do host a staff orientation on May 29th. They come in, get training on, the curriculum they'll be using and all the processes related to summer school. And our first day is June 1st and our last day is June 25th. So that wraps up just kind of a review of summer programming for this summer. Are there any questions? I always have a few questions. First, let me just go back because I think I just kind of got lost with the theater programming that was discontinued. So there's no theater program that summer play we kind of bring in the district.
Correct. That was a program that was supported through our district fine art director of fine arts and activities. So with that position decreasing, it becomes increasingly challenging to kind of get that off the ground. It doesn't mean we couldn't bring it back, but just with that shift this year with a lot of changes and responsibilities, we felt like, well, we got to pause on that one for this year. And again, funding too. We had to look at within the grant allocation as more funding becomes available, that could come back.
Okay. Just wanted to double check. So now the communication to parents, we have the busing and they're here about 4 hours-ish. Will we be providing like snack bags or breakfast bags for the students who are here?
That is a great question. I'm not sure if we historically have, but I can definitely get back to you on that. I would have to check. They're hosted in the park, but I'm not sure if they've had food in the past. I don't know. I'll find out.
I think, have we? I can't remember if we did. Not the park, but the kids coming to school for the summer.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, they have breakfast and lunch, and that's something that we're support with. I've emailed, I can't think of his name right now, but Ken. Yes, I've set up a time to meet with Ken. He supported last year with breakfast and lunch. Absolutely, that's offered for all of the in-school programming.
Just making sure that's included in that communication to parents.
Okay. Yep, we will.
Thank you. And I had one more question. The Future Ready Skills Academy. How are you having students just sign up for that, or how is that selection being done?
Yep, that is a sign-up process. They have a little, like a Google form they fill out that just provides their information and why they're interested. And then it's reviewed by Jessica Crone, takes a look at it.
and they have a selection process. I can get more details on, I don't know that they've had to turn any kids away. I'm pretty sure they had to recruit kids last year because we did not have full sections. Some of the challenge with that class that we might consider in the future is it's offered at the same time as credit recovery. So I know that we had some kids last year that expressed interest, but then they had a course they had to make up. So that's something where Jessica and Frank Rinaldi supports the credit recovery program here. They said going into this summer, they're going to try to work together to see if there's something they can do there. Because credit recovery is done online through Edgenuity programming. So the kids are on site, but we want to see if there's a way we can still give them access to some of those experiences. So I know they're going to work together, but it could be something for the future where maybe the time would need to change so kids had access to both. Okay, great. And then one last question, because you mentioned about the Twilight tutoring. Yeah, I did see where it's been expanded, but you mentioned about high school peer tutoring. Has that been communicated to parents, and how is my high school students know about the peer tutoring? How do they sign up? That is an excellent question. I'd have to ask Jeff Dees at the high school and Brian Peterson. I'm not sure what they've shared out with families, but I know that for sure within the school, it's being supported and kind of led by their MTSS specialist, Miss Lees, and she has gone around to every single department, brought tutors with her to talk to kids. We did a whole spotlight on it for our Friday Extra for staff. So it's well known in the building, but that's an excellent question. I will have to ask them if they've pushed that out to families, but I'll make sure they do. And remind me the MTSS again? Yes, multi-tiered system of support, correct. So anything think in the world of intervention or any special support students may need because they're struggling academically or behaviorally. As a parent, I would want to know that my student maybe has that option as well. I know because I'm getting the emails regarding Twilight tutoring, but as a high school parent, maybe I haven't quite been informed that there's this peer tutoring happening, and how do I even have that conversation? How do I help guide my student if parents don't know? Yeah, I'll double check on that. I'm not sure. I'd have to work with Miss LeBlanc too. I know in the fall when we launched Twilight tutoring, she's nodding her head at me. I'm fairly certain that at the high school level, we noted other tutoring opportunities, but we can push that back out again as well. And I'll find out, I'll share it exactly with you so you see what it said. Noted how? Do we know exactly how we noted that? It was in an email communication that went out to families about Twilight tutoring when it became available. Oh, I know about the Twilight tutoring. I'm talking about the high school peer tutoring. Yeah, so when we sent the email, because the email noted students would only be able to access Twilight tutoring with a 0 or at the high school it'd be a D or an F, they had us include that they had the Panther Den for tutoring during the day in that Twilight tutoring so parents could see there was something if there wasn't evening tutoring. But the peer
It was in there, I remember.
Okay, I might have missed it. I know Miss Lee is also going like, we don't remember.
Yeah, it was the purpose of the communication was focused on Twilight tutoring, but it said, oh, by the way, if you can't do Twilight tutoring, here are the other options, but it wasn't highlighted. It wasn't.
Okay, then maybe
so
that's why.
that. Yeah, we can.
Maybe that's why I missed it. Seems like maybe you missed it too, Miss Lee. So it's like, again, I think maybe you need to highlight it for high school parents. Yeah, I think it'd be great just knowing, like I said, we opened up Twilight tutoring to try to have a strong push for the end of the year. I mean, I found some middle school teachers at McGee and was like, you get to tutor everyone now. And they were literally clapping and super excited. So I think sending something as well to high school parents about there are more opportunities to, kick the year off strong and get more support. And we could even add, I'm not sure, Ms. LeBlanc, how much was in there about peer tutoring, but they've really ramped it up since those first communications in the fall. So we'll definitely follow up. Yeah, I mean, I would also hope that, just as we hope that we push that through the different medias that we have around Twilight tutoring. If the high school has something more specific that they too are pushing it through their platforms. Yep, we'll for sure look into that and then follow up with our response. That's all I had. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, thank you very much. And we will next go to Dr. Mendoza with the strategic plan.
Yeah, nothing formal, other than as we have been kind of a new way of doing it, we have written updates for all 5 themes for your review in the packet. And as a gentle reminder, as we button up the school year, we will be bringing a comprehensive year-end status report and update on strategic plan. Also want to gently remind the board, not last year, believe it or not, is year 3 of our current 3-year strategic plan. So I think it's a little weird to say, but I think the board is going to have to, there might be a transition. So you're going to have to decide, do we extend it a year? If there's new leadership, what would you want to do? You just have to think of the timing with that. So it's not super important and pressing right now, but something to think about in the future.
Any questions in regards to what was presented on the strategic plan update? Hearing none, thank you very much, Dr. Mendoza. We'll move on to FOIA report. Does the board have any questions in regards to the FOIA reports as listed? Hearing none there, thank you. And contracts under 1,000, we did have the one there. Any questions from the board in regards to that? Hearing none. Thank you very much, which will now take us to opportunity for public comment. As always, members of the public may participate in public comment during regular board meetings by attending in person. Please note that speakers are limited to 3 minutes of time. Is there any local public comment? Going once, going twice, done. All right, then that will take us to the superintendent's report and Dr. Mendoza.
Thank you, Board President Francisco and Board of Education. As the board is aware, we have historically utilized the former Kmart property to support off-site parking for high school graduation and middle school recognition ceremonies. With the recent purchase of that property and anticipated construction activity, that location will no longer be available to the school district. We have proactively secured an alternative site for this year's events. The property manager of the former Regal Cinema has confirmed that we may utilize their parking lot to accommodate overflow parking. District staff are coordinating logistics, signage, and traffic flow planning to ensure a smooth and safe experience for families and guests. We appreciate the board and community's continued support as we work to maintain positive, well-organized celebration experiences for our students and their families and friends. We'd like to extend our sincere appreciation to all staff, students, and community members who contributed to the planning and coordination of last Friday's Black History celebration. The event, themed A Century of Black History commemoration, was thoughtfully organized and reflected the dedication, creativity, and collaborative spirit of our school community. Thank you to everyone involved for creating a meaningful and engaging experience that honored history, culture, and the achievements of Black leaders and change makers. Your efforts help make this celebration a source of pride for our district and a memorable learning opportunity for our students. And last but certainly not least, the following donations were recently received. A thank you letter will be sent to each donor acknowledging their generosity. Indian Hill received $100 from Gail Nottenberg. Ellis Elementary, $178 check for spiritware from Pop-Up Shoppers LLC. Also, donuts and coffee, parents, Bessie Estrada and Israel Segura. Round Lake High School College and Career Networking Breakfast were provided with pastries by Love and Oven. That sounds really good.
I haven't had dinner.
Yes, and also pastries from Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts provided the high school with donuts for the same activity, and that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Mendoza. Any questions in regards to the superintendent's report? Hearing none, thank you again. And we will now transition to the Finance Committee and Committee report.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The finance agenda, which everyone had access to, so I hope you do a review. We had quite a few items. As we say, it's E-rate season. Mr. Kozak brought forward E-rate for our UPS equipment, our uninterruptible power supply systems that support John T. McGee through the E-rate program, which is 85% reimbursable through that E-rate program. The questions that came out of finance in regards to that aging and non-functional equipment is will it be recyclable? And of course, Mr. Kozak's team will properly recycle any of those, any of that equipment with any one of our recycling partners. Just reviewed the statement of work through CDW. That's who that will be. Just clarifying some language, what was in the memo and what was on the contract, just making sure that that will match through that submitted proposal. And again, 85% reimbursable. The remaining percentage will come out of the technology budget. That will come at the next March 9th meeting. Next, we had E-rate as it relates to our Comcast agreement for internet and WAN services. A question that came out of finance, and just more of a reminder as well, as if it includes the MiFis, the little MiFis that we give to staff and students who need internet connection. That is a separate agreement through AT&T that will come at the end of the fiscal year. This is 90% reimbursable, and again, that remaining balance will come out of the technology budget, and that too will come back in March. Next, we had a request for psychological services for one of our students. This is a separate contract, separate from one of the other services or providers that we use due to the language specific needed for this student. The language requested for the support is Ukrainian. The contractors that we have currently do not support that language, so we had to go outside. So that's why you'll see this contract come forward. The treasurer's report, thank you to Ms. Ames Soul for the great detail in covering that in great detail at the regular board meeting earlier. Next, we had the Apple 4-year lease agreement. Again, this will come forward in March. As we all know, we have our 1-2 Wonder program. We currently lease that equipment, the iPads and such, as we do a technology refresh for our 1st, 5th, and 9th graders and those staff that are eligible for a refresh. A lot of conversation regarding that. You will note that this year it's $986,000. The year prior was $1.6 million. That difference showing the decrease not only in our enrollment, so those that are being requested is reflected for that 1st, 5th, and 9th graders and staff refresh. We are fortunate to lease at a 0% interest rate, which is great because who doesn't want a 0% interest rate? However, as things are shifting and changing with Apple, and Tim Cook's name was used specifically, he doesn't want to offer 0% interest anymore to districts. What is this going to look like for us as a district? As we got to hear the report from the auditors, and as Ms. Amesol talked about in our treasurer's report, our financial situation as we move forward, we're receiving less funding. What might this program look like? Leasing is the best option for us right now. Again, it is at 0%. But I know the administration is having conversations on what this might look like forward. Do we look at owning? Do we continue leasing? What will those best options be? Right now, coming forward to the board will be the 0% leasing for 4 years for these iPads to do this next refresh and to keep the 1-2 Wonder program going. But we do know that a lot of questions were asked in what might this look like going forward? Knowing the declining enrollment, what teaching and learning might be using these iPads for as we continue to move forward. So there's a lot of questions that came forward, but what will come forward to you is this 4-year lease agreement at 0% interest. But it's really important to know that those conversations are happening, those questions are being asked as we continue to move forward. And then, again, thank you to Sheridan for coming in and giving the audit report. Again, thank you to Ms. Ames Soul, Tina, and the rest in the finance or business office and working through that audit. Again, getting an unmodified opinion, while it doesn't sound great or fancy, or that is what the district and any district is looking for. Wish they could rename that, but yeah, because unmodified opinion doesn't sound great, but it is really what we're looking for and what a district is striving for. And that's it for finance.
Any additional questions from the board? Thank you, as always, for our very detailed. And now we will move to approving of open meeting minutes.
I need a motion to approve the February 2nd, 2026 regular board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mr. Tavera. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Negrete McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes. Motion carries.
All right, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda for the following items. The accounts payable report for $911,991.19. The previous motions report for $205,394.25. December 2025 treasurer's report, the investment report, the January 2026 P-card report, the February 23rd, 2026 employment report.
So moved.
second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Negrete McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Ms. Lee, yes.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to new business. And first up on that is the independent contractor Insight Global and Dr. Chief.
Yes, we are just requesting approval of this contract. We had a social worker that was at both Round Lake High School and Round Lake Transition Center had abruptly resigned, and we need to continue the services provided for those students. So we're just asking that we continue on with our contracting services with this particular contractor.
Sorry, yes, just to add, prior to me reading the motion, I just wanted to remind the board that with Dr. Schuth and Finance, we created a system in regards to those contracts regarding these that will come forward. So those are reviewed. Just wanted to remind the board. With that, I need a motion to approve the independent contractor from Insight Global.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Ms. Lee. Hearing no additional conversation, roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Negrete McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to the audit and Ms. Amsol.
Thank you. Having presented and obtained support from the Finance Committee and having had Sheridan from Excezion come out and present to the Board of Education, administration is requesting that the Board of Education review and formally accept the FY25 audited financial as presented and allow or authorize administration to execute all and file all required documents.
I don't think I have anything else to add. Again, thank you for the presentation from them coming out. Need a motion to formally accept the 2024-2025 fiscal year audited financials as prepared and presented by Excezion and authorize administration to execute, file, and or publish all associated necessary documents in compliance with statutory requirements.
So moved.
second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Negrete McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Ms. Lee, yes.
Motion carries. And then personnel inventory changes, we're back with Dr. Schuth, I believe.
Yes, the last time we met on personnel inventory changes, those were for the 25-26 school year, our current school year. This is the first of a series that will be coming for the 2026-27 school year. We're starting first and foremost with the administrative positions and the department chair positions that exist, because we know for sure that those are not going to be needed in the 26-27 school year. We do believe that as well about the other positions, but as variances happen for enrollment and other reasons, we wanted to keep a steady pace on these to make sure that we have the position numbers available to us should we need them.
I just want to thank Dr. Schuth and Miss Ames Soul for working together on just literally tightening everything up in terms of position control, personnel inventory, tying direct people to dollars. I mean, it's been really exceptionally well done. So thank you both.
I need a motion to approve the identified personnel inventory changes as listed.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mr. Tavera. Roll call, please.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. Negrete McGinley?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes. Motion carries. And that will bring us to positive occurrences. And I'll start. I was very honored to be able to attend our Black History Month celebration. And very glad to see the community out and participating. Very excellent. Also want to say thank you to the athletic department, and they've been thrown in a couple of different times now, and we're having one right now. But having to host the regional playing games, which are the pre-regionals, so definitely kudos to the administration and staff at that level as well, hosting that for both the boys and the girls basketball teams.
I for the last 2 weekends spent the weekends watching the girls wrestling team compete in regionals and then sectionals. So I got to watch Mariah compete and Riley Kunkau, who is going to state this week for the 4th time. So that's really exciting.
Yep, that's Riley's 4th trip to, which joins her with only Ireland McCain as the only 4-time state qualifiers in Round Lake High School history.
Ditto to what you guys said.
All right, hearing nothing else there, we'll move on to future agenda items.
I have 2. The first one is, I'm not sure how many know, but the regional office of Lake County office has moved. They have a new facility. So I thought it'd be nice if we could plan a field trip. I mean, I would like to see their new facilities. I mean, the last one I was there was when they were over by CLC, so I'm assuming it's a little different. So
Yeah, it's a lot different.
I've seen pictures. That's why I'm asking. I think, oh, that looks kind of cool. And I know Dr. Carter he's had other groups there. I think it'd be nice if we could go see.
Yeah,
I'm sure he will.
would be
I'll
ecstatic.
work on this.
We've only been in that. They've only been in that building for about 2 weeks now, and they're still transitioning over. So, yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah, I mean, obviously coordinate with them. I'm not saying we have to go tomorrow, but it just would be nice to see again, just like we visited, other facilities through the county that we send our students to or that support us. It still would be good to see that new facility as well. And then this is really more reiteration of what I said earlier, but I didn't mention it in the finance. I just wanted to mention again, because it will be a future agenda item. Again, that financial assurance review that will be coming forward. It is being completed next week, which is already March. Hard to believe, but it's being completed early March. So that will bring that to the board and presentation for the community. That review, again, different and separate than what you've heard from our auditors. So we look forward to bringing that forward.
Thank you. Any additional conversation topics? All right. Hearing none there, I would request, can I get a motion to convene in closed session as permitted by, well, I'm trying to Now I can't find my notes for where I'm supposed to, which sessions.
It's hard to drive this vehicle here.
5 ILCS 120/2C1. Actually, which ones are we doing for a closed session tonight? I don't see a list here.
It's number 15.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. Sorry. And it comes back to bite me. Okay, I need a motion to convene in closed session as permitted by statute 5 ILCS 120/2 for the purpose of discussing the following: employment 5 ILCS 120/2C, litigation 5 ILCS 120/2C11, student matters 5 ILCS 120/2C9, and closed meeting minutes 5 ILCS 120/2C21.
So
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Negrete McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mr. Devera,
yes.
Miss Lee.
Yes.
Motion carries. That will take us to closed session, and we do not have any open session afterwards. So thank you all, everyone online tonight. Our next meeting is March the 9th. Thank you. March 9th, 7 p.m. We look forward to seeing you then. Have a great evening.